The first tattoo I ever got, probably 10 years in the making. This is Brian Cain, your mental performance mastery coach with the Brian Cain Mental Performance Mastery podcast. I was a sophomore in high school, Mount Greylock Regional High School, Williamstown, Massachusetts. The year 1995. We're at our football banquet, and we have a guest speaker who at the time is an offensive line coach at Williams College, Williamstown, Massachusetts. Speaker's name, Ed Foley. Ed Foley, doing the keynote speech that night at the banquet, read a poem that completely changed the trajectory of my life. And then in 2003, I'm at Cal State Fullerton as a grad student with the great Ken Ravizza, and he puts a picture, which I'll include in the show notes here, of the existential man, which gave me a visual representation of the importance of the poem that Ed Foley, Glenn's brother, had read to us 10 years before. The poem that day, The Man in the Glass by Dale Wimbrow Sr. When you get what you want in your struggle for self and the world makes you king for a day, just go to the mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or wife whose judgment upon you must pass. The fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back from the glass. You may be like Jack Horner and chisel a plum and think you're a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. He's the fellow to please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear to the end. And you've passed your most dangerous, difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down your pathway of years and get pats on the back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. I remember at the Mandalay Bay, working with UFC fighter Vitor Belfort, getting ready for his championship bout with Chris Weidman. Sitting there cutting weight with the champ, the contender at that time, the former two-time champ. And I said, Vitor, what do you know now if you could go back and tell yourself at 19 years old when you won your first UFC championship? What would you say? And after a pause of what seemed like 10 minutes, he looked at me and he said, Brian, I would go back and I would say, Vitor, a boy makes decisions out of preference and a man makes decisions out of principle. So my question for you is, what are the core principles? Maybe you call them core values. Maybe you call them character traits. What are the core principles that are driving your behavior? Have you taken time to press pause long enough on the treadmill of life to ask yourself those questions? Because society's not going to. The places that you go, you know what people are going to ask? They're going to say, hey, so what do you do? Versus, hey, so tell me, who are you? So I want you to think, who are you? If you take a look at the picture we're going to post in the show notes here, if you take a look at you pulling yourself open and taking a look inside, like looking at the man in the glass, what do you see? What are your core principles? In the day that I chose and made the decision on what my core principles were going to be, because it's about making decisions, because your decisions determine your destiny. You don't have to hike to the top of Humphreys Peak in Arizona, the highest mountain, or the Himalayas to find out your core principles. You just have to press pause on life long enough, get some silence, and determine who you want to be. Because your core principles, I don't believe you say, well, who am I? And you look in the rearview mirror. No. You look in the windshield and you say, who do I want to be? And you set those principles with intention. For me, the acronym is DELP, D-E-L-P, discipline, having a plan and sticking to it. Energy and excellence, being a positive life force for others and constantly working to be my best. Love, unconditionally giving of yourself and expecting nothing in return. And then the P, present, process, productive. Be where your feet are, present. Control what you can control, process. Get it done, productive. When you take a look in the glass, what do you see? Do you see someone who's trying to fool the whole world down the pathway of years? Because I think at some point we've all been that guy or that gal. But do you like what you see? And if you don't like what you see, the only person who can change that is you. So get started. And it starts with you making a decision around what we're going to call your one-word principle. What is your one-word principle that you will go all in on? That if you live that one-word principle, it will give you the best chance to get closer towards the person you want to be. Maybe your one word is discipline. Now, what does that then look like in action? It's getting up on time. It's going to bed on time. It's eliminating the alcohol or the nutrition decisions, the TV watching that's not helping you get to where you want to go. Or it's setting boundaries for yourself and sticking with them. Look, you're playing offense here, not defense, my friend. You've got to set some boundaries, set some rules, set some guidelines that you follow to help you become the best version of yourself. Follow those principles. Don't be like water and take the easy route and live out of preference. Because what that's going to get you is a whole lot of heartache when you look at the man in the glass. Thanks for listening to the Brian Cain Mental Performance Podcast on the Ironclad Content Network. If you liked the show, be sure to leave us a rating and a review, and don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Brian Cain Peak. I'll see you next time.